The year was 1950, May 6th. Two brothers, Viggo and Emil Højgaard, were cutting peat for fuel in a bog near the town of Tollund, in Denmark's Bjelskovdal peat bog, when they found something unusual: a dead body. The two brothers thought that they had come across the body of a recent murder victim, as the man's body appeared relatively fresh, but that was not the case. This body was over 2,000 years old. This is a case example of a bog body, and there have been many other cases like this in various parts of Europe, and currently there are over 1,000 bog bodies that have been discovered. So what is a bog body? A bog body is a human remains that has been naturally preserved in a peat bog, offering remarkable insights into ancient people's lives, rituals, and environments. The extraordinary preservation of bog bodies, sometimes including skin, hair, internal organs, and even stomach contents, is primarily due to the unique combination of environmental conditions found in peat bogs. The one Viggo and Emil Højgaard found is one of the most famous and well-preserved bog body ever discovered, and it was discovered in Denmark in 1950, the Tollund Man. The Tollund Man lived around 2,400 years ago during the Iron Age. He was so well preserved that he looked like he had only recently died, with even his facial features, hair, and skin intact. The Tollund Man was found lying in a fetal position, wearing only a leather cap and a belt around his waist, with a rope noose still around his neck. The rest of his body was bare, which further intrigued archaeologists and historians when they began studying him. When the two brothers first discovered him, they initially believed they had found the remains of a recent murder victim due to the remarkable preservation of the body, and they contacted the police. The police quickly arrived at the scene and, after seeing the remarkable state of preservation, assumed the same. However, when the police noticed the unusual surroundings and burial circumstances, they began to suspect that the body might be much older. They called in experts from the Silkeborg Museum, particularly Dr. P.V. Glob, who was a renowned Danish archaeologist and peat bog expert. Dr. Glob, who had previously studied bog bodies, immediately recognized the significance of the find. He and his team of archaeologists arrived to investigate further. Upon examining the body, Dr. Glob and his team realized that the Tollund Man was far older than originally suspected, and so the excavation process began. This is what the archaeologists discovered. Like we stated earlier, the Tollund Man was found lying in a fetal position, wearing only a leather cap and a belt around his waist, with a rope noose still around his neck. The rest of his body was bare. The Tollund Man was so well preserved that his skin, facial features, and even the stubble on his chin were still visible, giving him an almost lifelike appearance. The position of the rope suggested that he was hanged, and also the rope noose was intricately tied, and the careful placement of the body in the bog points to a deliberate and respectful burial, likely meant as an offering to the gods. His peaceful expression and the care taken with his burial suggest that the Tollund Man may have been a willing participant in this sacrifice, or at the very least, that his death was seen as part of a significant ritual. The archaeologist also discovered grains and seeds which were likely from his final meal was a kind of porridge made from barley, linseed, and wild grasses, which were typical food items during the Iron Age. The analysis also indicated that he had eaten this meal 12 to 24 hours before his death, which helped pinpoint the timeline leading up to his sacrifice. This analysis not only provided insights into Iron Age diets, but also helped date the Tollund Man to a specific season, likely the late winter or early spring, as some of the seeds in his stomach are typically harvested in the fall and stored for winter use. The Tollund Man had short cropped hair, and the stubble on his chin suggested he had not shaved for a day or two before his death. His body was otherwise healthy, with no signs of illness or malnutrition, indicating he likely lived a relatively normal life until the ritual sacrifice. Why do researchers think that his death for ritualistic purposes? Well, during the Iron Age, many bog bodies have been discovered in northern Europe, often in association with similar practices. These bodies were likely offerings to the gods, particularly to fertility gods or gods of war, and some theories suggest that sacrifices were made during the spring planting season to ensure a good harvest or to mark important moments in the agricultural cycle. After his discovery, the Tollund Man was transported to the Silkeborg Museum in Denmark, where he remains on display today. However, Only his head and face were fully preserved, as the rest of his body had to be reburied to avoid damage. A reconstruction of his body was made based on the findings from the excavation and scientific studies. So how do peat bogs preserve bodies? The extraordinary preservation of bog bodies, sometimes including skin, hair, internal organs, and even stomach contents, is primarily due to the unique combination of environmental conditions found in peat bogs. Peat bogs are waterlogged areas with water that is typically stagnant and low in oxygen. This anaerobic environment slows down the activity of bacteria and other decomposers that normally break down organic matter, including human tissues. Without oxygen, the usual processes of decay are significantly inhibited. Peat bogs are highly acidic, often with pH levels ranging from 3 to 4. This acidity is primarily due to the presence of sphagnum moss, which releases humic and fulvic acids as it decomposes. The acidic conditions create an inhospitable environment for most bacteria and fungi that would otherwise facilitate decomposition. This acidic milieu helps preserve soft tissues like skin and hair. That is why most of these bog bodies tend to have reddish hair, because of the acidity that is in the bogs. Peat bogs are typically found in cool climates, which further slows down the decomposition processes. Lower temperatures reduce the metabolic rates of any microorganisms present, contributing to the preservation of the body. Certain anaerobic bacteria present in bogs produce substances like tannins and other phenolic compounds that can act as natural preservatives. These chemicals can cross-link proteins in the skin and other tissues, effectively tanning them and preventing decay. Additionally, the peat itself can help desiccate, dry out the body, removing moisture that bacteria need to thrive. Peat is composed of partially decayed plant material, primarily sphagnum moss, which has a spongy texture. This composition aids in trapping and immobilizing the body, providing a stable environment that protects it from physical disturbances. The consistent conditions within the peat layer ensure that the preservation process is uniform and ongoing. The combination of low oxygen, high acidity, and cool temperatures means that decomposition occurs very slowly. Over time, the body's tissues become mummified rather than fully decomposed, retaining much of their original structure and appearance. Peat bogs are also responsible for the tanning effect. The acidic and tannin-rich environment acts similarly to modern tanning processes, preserving skin and hair. There is also minimal bloating. Unlike typical decomposition, which causes bloating due to gas buildup, the anaerobic conditions in bogs prevent significant gas formation, maintaining the body's original shape. Like we also said earlier, there have been other bog bodies discovered over the years, the most notable ones being Tollund Man, who was found in Grauballe Bog in Jutland, Denmark, and the Clonikavan Man in Ireland. Some of these bog bodies were as a result of human sacrifices which were common at the time or criminal executions.